And a visual check. Are you seeing the slides correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So again, good morning. If you're listening to the recording, good day. The webinar will begin shortly, actually right now. Again, thank you for joining the webinar. We're really pleased to have you participate. Today, the webinar is being recorded. For those of you who are live, just heard that. Many of you may be thinking, well, I'm going to have some questions, or maybe you already do, and we're kind of pleased that you do because that's a good thing. Participants who are live are probably muted. We tried to make it so that we couldn't inadvertently pick up extra background noise. As Carrie mentioned, though, those that are calling in, please be cognizant to mute whenever you can. Those who are new to Microsoft Teams, we're going to ask that you enter questions into the Teams chat window. And we got a visual that shows where that's at if you're looking around and trying to find which window that's in. And if you're calling in, we'd ask that you email your questions, if possible, to apprenticeship@michigan.gov. So Carrie is monitoring the apprenticeship mailbox as well this morning, so that's an option. If you're viewing the recording and it's not a live session, you're also welcome and encouraged to email questions to apprenticeship@michigan.gov. And at the end of the session, we'll go through the process we're going to follow for frequently asked questions and distribution of those through the same website that you picked up or will pick up a copy of the RFP from, which is our www.michigan.gov/apprenticeship website. And those are documented in this presentation, which will also be shared following the webinar.
Scott, we've lost your slides, but I'm not sure why, but I'm not seeing them.
Carrie, I am seeing them.
Oh, maybe it's just me then. Thank you, Marcia.
Check for another window on your taskbar, Carrie. See if there's another window hiding behind one. Sometimes mine get cascaded, so the window's behind another Teams window.
No, I did check and I'm not seeing it. There's several people that, well, there's another person that's saying they cannot see them either.
All right, I'm going to unshare and share again just in case.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them now.
All right.
Everybody else seems to be seeing them too, so I think we're good now.
Thank you. Please continue to provide that feedback whenever necessary.
Will do.
All right, thank you. Okay, so if you're new to Teams, we mentioned already that the meeting is being recorded, and that's the button on the left-hand side of your screen. And when it's red, it just says it's a reminder that we are recording the session. The open and close for the chat window is second from your left on the top menu, right below the name of the meeting. This one says Microsoft Teams if you're looking at the slide. And that's just a button. So if you press the button, you'll notice that the chat menu or the window on the right disappeared. And if you push it again, the chat window comes back, and that's where you would enter your questions this morning. Again, if you're online, you need to use the email. if you're watching the recording or if you're on the phone. Participants that are in the Teams session on a PC or on a phone are on mute. At least that was our goal. Enter questions in the chat on the right is the process, or you can email questions again to apprenticeship@michigan.gov. We feel like it might be advantageous to enter the questions as soon as you have them, just so you can kind of concentrate on the rest of the presentation. Michigan's apprenticeship expansion team is made up of Marcia Black-Watson, who is our Industry Engagement Division Administrator. And many of you may know Marcia, and if you don't, then I can suggest that she is key to all, not just apprenticeship expansion activities, but workforce development, industry engagement division activities for Michigan. Good morning, Marcia.
Good morning, Scott, and good morning, everyone. As Scott has said earlier, thank you so very much for joining this information session on state apprenticeship expansion and the request for proposal that is currently active and available. We really appreciate your participation and your interest in this particular effort. We know the impact of work-based learning to workforce development and particularly registered apprenticeship. This is just a great opportunity for our state. And just to give you a little bit of information regarding industry engagement, we are a part of the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Workforce Development. We are responsible for working very closely with industry and businesses, organizations to really address the talent needs across the state. And we have 3 buckets in addition to state apprenticeship expansion. We are also responsible for work-based learning, which includes the Going Pro Talent Fund, as well as Perkins Post-Secondary and other work-based learning activities. Also, sector strategies, which includes working with cohorts of employers to address common workforce needs. So again, thank you very, very much for joining today. And we look forward to your questions at the end of this presentation.
Thank you, Marcia. Excellent introduction, much appreciated. Also on our team is apprenticeship specialist Kevin Chow. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, everyone.
Kevin is going to lurk a little bit this morning, but empowers us from behind the scenes to do all that we do, including make this presentation this morning. So thank you, Kevin. And Carrie Sutton, our apprenticeship expansion and apprenticeship analyst. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. As Scott said, I am the apprenticeship analyst for the state's apprenticeship expansion team. I help with the administrative side of things, such as tracking participants and participant data. I also help provide logistical support and technical assistance to apprenticeship success coordinators and other apprenticeship stakeholders. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And as a side note, we'd like to ask that people not use their video if possible, because we have several hundred people on this call. So the more bandwidth we can get, the better off we'll be. So thanks again and good morning.
Thank you, Carrie. Great reminder. I forgot to mention the bandwidth, and those of us who are able to, I actually did disconnect from VPN to try and increase the signal. So thank you for the reminder. And good morning. I'm Scott Yedley, and I serve as the manager for the apprenticeship expansion section. one of the 3 sections in our industry engagement division, as Marcia mentioned. Our agenda this morning is going to look like this. We're going to talk about the opportunity and the purpose, sort of the definition, what the Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, and our Department of Labor expects and promises to be able to have access to these funds. We're going to lay out grant program framework, kind of look at the bigger picture from a state perspective, talk about the expectations, and sort of what the program is going to look like. The meat is in the scope of work, and we're hoping that if you've had a chance to already read the RFP, that you've got some questions forming about that scope of work, and we're hoping that you're thinking about how you could fit into a successful proposal that would help us in our expansion efforts. We're going to look pretty briefly at an allowable use of grant funds. We're going to look through some performance measures. We're going to talk about how the proposals that we'll be receiving, that you'll be creating, developing, or writing are going to be scored. Important dates to remember, and then we're going to focus on questions. I think up front it's really important to note that the RFP is where the answers are found. And so basically we're going to be reviewing materials that lead to a more full description that's found in the RFP. And so our best chance at getting the right answers is always to make sure the RFP is right. We'll also talk at the close about our process for updating and providing answers to frequently asked questions. But again, the RFP is the source that you need to go to in order to find answers to your questions. So first off, the opportunity and purpose, sort of defining what we're going to do. The Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity in our workforce development area has the acronym LEOWD. So where you see LEOWD in the presentation, that refers to our department, the Michigan Department. The request for proposals is often under the acronym RFP, and these are funds from the United States Department of Labor, USDOL, and so all of the guidelines that are carried with federal funds apply to these funds. So even though you'll be receiving them as an award through the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, or LEO, all of the same federal requirements apply to these funds. Also worth mentioning is we're excited about the expansion of registered apprenticeship, USDOL registered apprenticeship programs. The quality standards set for those programs are what deliver the results that we're excited about and that Michigan wants to expand the use of in skilling our employees. And these funds cannot be used for industry recognized apprenticeship programs, or IRAPs, and they cannot be used for unregistered programs or internships. They need to be only used for USDOL registered apprenticeship programs. The goal of the expansion program that we named the 2020 grant program is to significantly expand registered apprenticeship opportunities for all Michigan citizens. It's important to note that expansion is typically not what we're doing now. It's expanding into an area that we're not currently real active in, or expanding the participant groups that participate in our registered apprenticeships. The goal is to accelerate skills development through the earn and learn registered apprenticeship model. We're going to grow over 5,000 workers in high skill, high wage, in demand careers. We anticipate 10 to 15 awards from $300,000 to $1,100,000. The grant period of performance will run from April 1st of this year through March 31st of 2023, or a full 2-year period. Activities will include strategically scaling the model into new industry sectors and occupations, also increasing diversity of participants, with keen focus on veterans and their spouses, youth, and others that are historically underrepresented in registered apprenticeship programs, including women, people of color, ex-offenders, and persons with disabilities. The grant program framework looks a little bit like this. We recognize that a high quality registered apprenticeship program system is what we need in Michigan in order to expand the use of the model. The model accelerates skill development and benefits all stakeholders, including employers, union and non-union, and employees or apprentices, new job seekers and students, and existing or incumbent workers. This program is going to better align secondary and post-secondary education and employment pathways across the state so that we channel job seekers and those getting ready for careers from education experiences to registered apprenticeship opportunities. The sectors we're going to work in include advanced manufacturing, construction, energy, healthcare, information technology, and mobility. We're going to have a new state-level advisory board. That board will help align state education and workforce systems. It's going to establish a more formalized registered apprenticeship stakeholder network and facilitate state-level innovation and coordinated regional implementation. A majority of these grant funds are focused on innovation for the registered apprenticeship model. The new state-level apprenticeship advisory board is made up of leadership from industry, labor, the Office of Apprenticeship, Michigan Office of Apprenticeship, secondary and post-secondary education, workforce development, vocational rehabilitation, and other experts in apprenticeship expansion. And the board will provide guidance on innovations for implementation that takes place locally. And the implementation is going to take place through Regional Implementation Consortia, or RICs, across the state. And we call them RICs in this presentation, or RIC, but it always stands for Regional Implementation Consortia. The consortia are responsible for local program implementation, state-level innovations, or maybe optimized processes that are reviewed at the advisory board and promoted into regions or sectors, and maybe optimize proven practices from other regions or sectors. RICs will also achieve the program goals, and they're going to focus on creating more registered apprenticeship program opportunities. Remember the focus on youth, veterans, and other underrepresented populations, but also scaling the model into new industry sectors and or new occupations. The awards will increase regional employer demand and in many cases facilitate employer reimbursements for registered apprenticeship costs that are allowable under this program. The program is going to also provide to those awarded an online application that automates registered apprenticeship program progress tracking. This system automates progress to goal tracking and assembles and aggregates data for reporting. It's also known as, in this program, the Raptor system. That's not the actual name of the system, but it's an acronym that we proposed as a placeholder until procurement takes place at a state level. The system makes tracking easier. It could help, we believe, to improve RAP completion rates, and it can simplify conversions or tracking for programs that are moving towards or are already competency-based programs. Successful respondents or awardees will have system access. A picture is seen here. On the right, we notice that the application runs on mobile phones and PC platforms. In most cases, the apprentice initiates the update to the system or progress being tracked, and then the system creates a pull signal, or a nag, many people call it, for a mentor or supervisor to verify that the competency or the hours that are being tracked were actually completed, and it builds an online record that can be viewed visually or be produced in reports on a cadence as needed. Program participants will also be reported through a new apprenticeship participant program in the state's one-stop management information system. This system is going to help us with both supportive service tracking and overall reporting for grant participation. Michigan Works agencies will enroll participants in this system. The system helps determine Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, funding eligibility, and then the related case management, performance tracking, and reporting for those participants that are eligible. The program consolidates data for all of our grant activities and also all supportive services that are funded through WIOA funds or by grant funds. We're pretty excited about that opportunity. This eliminates the spreadsheet-based tracking that has been a tradition in these federal projects in the past. The meat for the proposal is found in the scope of work section. And in this section, you'll be describing in your proposal answers to the outline that's established in the RFP, whereby Leo is seeking partners to work together in regional implementation consortia, either by region or by industry sector, to significantly expand registered apprenticeship opportunities, as we mentioned, with a keen focus on underrepresented population inclusion, to accelerate the development of over 5,000 workers by March 31st, 2023. We'll be establishing new or expanding existing programs, and in some cases, related apprenticeship readiness solutions. RIC members will include a lead partner, required partners, and likely recommended partners. Proposals will be submitted by the lead partner on behalf of the consortia. MWAs are required partners in each RIC or consortia. Their role, as we mentioned, is to enroll employers and grant participants into the Raptor and OSMA system. Lead partners will have overall program and fiduciary responsibility for the award. They'll also be responsible to report award activities and performance outcomes on a regular basis as defined in the RFP. Examples of eligible lead partners include, but are not limited to, employer-led collaboratives, business associations, labor organizations, nonprofit organizations, Michigan Works agencies, and workforce development boards. Required partners in a regional implementation consortia include, but are not limited to, employers and/or organized labor, Michigan Works agencies, including apprenticeship success coordinators, Office of Apprenticeship Training Representatives, or ATRs, secondary educational partners, including CEPD directors, and one or more post-secondary institutions. Recommended partners include, but are not limited to, talent development liaisons, either by region or sector, apprenticeship intermediaries by region or sector, business associations or chambers of commerce, other public agencies or nonprofit organizations, veteran employment and services, or vocational rehabilitation. And the footnote is that bonus points are available for consortia that include recommended partners. And we'll review that when we get to the scoring slide. In the scope of work, we have expansion priorities, and they include underrepresented populations that include youth, veterans, and others historically underserved, women, people of color, ex-offenders, and persons with disabilities, as previously mentioned, and will be mentioned again. You should be understanding the theme at this point. New industry sectors and occupations, healthcare, information technology, and mobility, or new occupations in current industry sectors, advanced manufacturing, construction, energy, healthcare, information technology, and mobility. You'll notice all of the target industry sectors are listed under new occupations. In the scope of work, there are 3 areas or proposal elements required, and respondents who are successful will kind of understand there's overall program activities, there are expansion priorities that are going to be selected by your proposal. Your response will select expansion priorities, and then all awards will focus on key expansion strategies. So one more time, there's overall program activities. They're defined clearly in the RFP. There are expansion priorities the respondent will select, so you'll be picking the focus areas for your work. And then there's key expansion strategies that all awardees will follow. So we know that the activities have to increase capacity for expansion, and they've got to focus on one of the expansion areas or more, one or more, and there's 5 areas available. Expanding youth registered apprenticeship programs, expanding veterans registered apprenticeship programs, or registered apprenticeship programs that have veterans as apprentices, expanding registered apprenticeship program access for other underrepresented populations, strategically scaling the model into new industry sectors and occupations, and expanding registered apprenticeship program intermediary services. In each of these expansion priorities, it's important to note, and the RFP mentions this in each expansion priority section, that we support the development of programs that are demand-driven. So in your proposal, respondents that are successful should use labor market information and real-time data, employer job openings, etc., to validate the need for the project in the area that they choose, focusing on industries that are experiencing growth and or suffering from a skills gap. Successful respondents in the expansion priority are going to specify how many participants will be served, clearly explain what services they will provide, and detail how the services will be provided with the associated performance outcomes. So we know that the activities have to increase overall regional capacity. Here is a list of the strategy areas that are going to be pertaining to all awards. Strategy number 1, provide supportive services for program participants. A successful respondent will clearly explain how they'll provide the needed supportive service with appropriate detail to explain how the partners in the consortia are going to work together to assess participant needs during recruitment and enrollment, and then collaborate to make sure that administrative and program supports are provided during the program. A second key strategy is to reimburse employers for extraordinary cost of registered apprenticeship programs. So funds may be used for reimbursements for on-job learning, often referred to as on-job training in the apprenticeship model, or related training and instruction, also often referred to as related instruction or the classroom component of the apprenticeship program. Strategy 3 is to certify apprenticeship readiness. Awardees in regions or by sector will help develop a Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificate and help in distributing that certificate for participants who are ready based on completion for registered apprenticeship programs. Strategy 4 is to utilize improved data systems. We'll all be working towards a common resource repository, using and contributing to an online repository where resources are shared and leveraged. Also, as previously mentioned, automated registered apprenticeship program progress tracking and grant program awardees will have access to this application online. And that's the program we mentioned is currently known as Raptor. Continued strategy 4 is data collection and performance reporting. Grant participants will use a new portion of the OSMA system specific to apprenticeship participant tracking. It will assist in determining the WIOA funding eligibility for case management, performance tracking, and reporting, and also supportive services, which for those not all the time involved in the process, they include childcare, transportation, and other services that improve our apprentices' prospects to complete the program. A few additional activities in the scope of work that are included are participation in National Apprenticeship Week, which is an annual celebration of sorts. Many of you participating on the call are already avid participants in that annual event, where stakeholders showcase programs, facilities, or maybe apprentices, and even outstanding apprentices. There is a potential evaluation element that accompanies these award funds. A condition of receipt is that partners agree to participate in USDOL evaluations that may be assigned to the project. It could be an assessment, an analysis, or a review of data elements. And it is a DOL requirement. Part of our requirement for accepting these awards that we will pass through to you as part of your requirement for accepting the awards as well. A brief look at allowable use of grant funds. There is a complete section in the RFP that talks specifically about the allowable use of grant funds, but this is to be considered a primer. On the job learning, grant funds may be used to reimburse employers for the extraordinary cost of apprenticeship on-job learning and related training instruction. Coordination activities can be funded with grant funds. Coordinating registered apprenticeship activities with partners, academic and related instructions for students, overall school-based and work-based learning for registered apprentices, coordinating, monitoring, providing related training and instruction and education, or recruiting students, job seekers, and employers to participate in registered apprenticeship programs. Also allowable and kind of lengthy and wordy is apprentice support. So again, providing training incentives for employers, providing supportive services, in this case, a little more specific, including safety gear and other items necessary to start employment as needed by an individual apprentice or student, providing technical assistance and mentor training to employers. For administrative costs, general administrative program costs, these, however, are limited to 7% of program costs. And the note that's highlighted here in blue indicates that we have an opportunity to improve our RFP. There's language in the RFP that states limited to 7% of MWA program cost. So in a version 2 of this RFP that we expect will be out by Monday of next week, you'll notice that the MWA portion of that sentence will be removed, and it's going to state that general program administrative costs are limited to 7% of program costs. The note also is that any expenses beyond those that are approved in the budget require prior LEO approval. The RFP also does a pretty good job of listing costs that are not allowed, and there's not many, but you will notice that there's a 10% limit overall on funds for supportive services to be provided with the use of these funds. Now we'll look at a few performance measures. Successful respondents must provide outcomes that are met as detailed below, the project goals, including but not limited to the following measures: total number of employers involved in the program, total number of participants served, number of apprentice program completers, underrepresented participants served, and apprenticeship program participants that enter a registered apprenticeship. Average costs per apprentice calculation of the entire project and the total numbers of apprentices served when considering the cost per apprentice. Participation, as mentioned, also in at least 2 National Apprenticeship Week events. And an overview of proposal scoring. This section is one slide, and we grabbed a bunch of your screen's real estate in an attempt to replicate the scoring chart that's inside the RFP. Working from top to bottom on the left, we see that overall compliance is worth 5 points. That required partner composition and experience, as described in the narrative in the RFP, up to 10 points. This is where there are points for recommended partners, and these are bonus points. 2 points per partner up to 10 points. So this one could range at a high end from 10 points if there are no recommended partners to 20 points if recommended partners are included in the consortia. The scope of work, where much of the meat of your proposal is contained, is worth 30 points. The project work plan that describes how and when it's going to take place, worth 15. Staff competence, experience, and capacity, worth 10. The performance measures and outcomes, the slide that we just reviewed, 10 points. The budget and budget narrative, 10 points. And the all-important sustainability plan that ensures continued success and expansion moving forward, also worth 10 points, for a total of 100 points or 110 with bonus points. Important dates. Wednesday, December 18th, the RFP was posted. Today is the pre-bid webinar. The one that's bolded and in red may be the most important date. Submissions will not be accepted after 5 p.m. on Monday, February 1st, 2021. It truly is the deadline for submission. On Monday, March 1st, awardees will be notified. On Thursday, April 1st, we're going to hold a grant orientation meeting for those awardees who achieve awards. On April 1st through March 31st of 2023, we're going to experience the grant period of performance when the work takes place. So in our pre-bid webinar, so far we covered the opportunity and purpose with a definition of what expansion means, not doing the same thing, but expanding into new areas or with new participant populations or into new sectors. We talked about the framework that lays out a state-level advisory board and a system that includes apprenticeship stakeholders and sets up for success in regions or by sector for consortia to succeed. We talked about the specific scope of work that a regional implementation consortia or RIC would follow to be successful and propose. A brief look at the allowable use of grant funds, a list of performance measures that are important, and reviewed the scoring that'll be used on proposals that are submitted. We looked at some important dates, and now we're ready to handle some questions. So there's kind of two ways questions can be answered. One way is we'll take as many questions as we can answer now and do our best to answer those. In some cases, we may need to answer them as part of our frequently asked questions or FAQ list. All of the questions that we answer will be added to the FAQ list so that all respondents have a fair chance to get the information. Our frequently asked questions are going to be posted on michigan.gov/apprenticeship. And even though that's spelled wrong, the link is actually going to be right only if you spell apprenticeship correctly. So that slide will be fixed before we send it to you. The frequently asked questions list will be posted as updated by Monday morning of each week. We would encourage those that are writing the proposals to check there on Monday if you're interested in any updates that may have been posted.